Welcome to episode 3 of I'm Not a Doctor, but my wife is. Today we're talking about eating for a healthy gut. I am joined once again by the medical director and the co-founder of the Rosewood Clinic, Dr. Iman Thalia. And we're also joined, and I'm honoured, UK Registered Nutritionist Yasmin, who will be going deep into eating for a healthy gut and how important it is for all of us, not just those with gut health issues, right? So we're going to jump straight on in here, and I'm going to ask a question all about the gut and food. Now, in general, I'm going to start with you, Yasmin. In general, what type of foods should we be looking at, which should be considered generally good for your gut?
First of all, Greg, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share with everybody some bits and insights from experiences that I've had with my patients. And we're talking about gut health today. So that's a very interesting topic because I've had a lot of patients who come in and go to talk about weight loss, but eventually what I noticed is that it all starts from the gut, that there's something that they've not been eating right.
Here.
So it does not help with their weight loss journey as well. So in terms of gut health, being a Malaysian, I think it's very difficult for us to be really focused on gut health because of all of the different delicious delicacies that we have here in Malaysia. The street foods, the vendors along the side of the road, it's quite a nightmare if you don't know how to actually manage your diet properly. And with a very fast-paced environment that we are living these days, a lot of people are actually depending on food that are accessible and very, very convenient to them. So when we're talking about gut health, what I usually tell my patients is to firstly cut off a lot of foods that are, I wouldn't say bad, but not as healthy. For example, I've mentioned about the vendors, street vendors, and the food along the roadside. A lot of them are usually high in fat, high in sodium, so they are not very good for your gut. Because if I tell them firstly that, okay, this is a full list of ingredients or food that are actually good for your gut, they will start eating that, but they'll still be eating the street food. So I feel like it doesn't really make sense. So I'll start with telling them to cut off these types of food first.
And is that cut off entirely, or is that like once a week?
Well, I mean, some patients are very dedicated. They can cut off. They have their mindset to it. But some of them, they're like, oh, it's really difficult. You know, these foods are sort of like a comfort food to them. So I'll teach them to reduce it to a certain amount and to the one point where they feel that they can let it go entirely, right? So I don't really push them to stop entirely because that will create a vicious cycle. At the end of the day, they'll start doing sort of like a fat diet, like a rebound diet, where so they cut off for like 2 weeks, and then the next week they'll start eating and stuffing themselves. So that's going to start a very vicious cycle, and it's going to hurt their gut even further. So I don't recommend going cold turkey if they can't do it.
See, this is what I find interesting, right? Because this is why we have a nutritionist, working with some of the programs that we do, right? Because from our perspective as functional medicine doctors, we're just telling patients, okay, you're going to have to cut out all these things, right? Because obviously these are like triggering food. And then we kind of don't know what's happening after 2 weeks, right? We just tell them to do that. And then we see them typically a month after, for example. If it's really bad, then you see them like 2 weeks after. But most of the time we see them like a month after. But then we don't know what's happening in the 2 weeks. But that's probably why they didn't get better after a month. It's because they probably did that whole binge thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just cutting.
But, I mean, look,
completely.
Jumping the gun here, but compliance is utterly important, isn't it, really?
Yes.
I mean, like at the end of the day, doctors, nutritionists like yourself as well, you can do 75% of the work on guiding the meal plans, the whole kit and caboodle, as we say. But at the end of the day, if they don't comply, right, they're not going to see the full results. So what's compliance like?
Again, it really depends on the patients, right? Some of them, they're really dedicated, because what I noticed from patients from Rosewood that I've taken care of, I would say 50% of them, because they are the kind that they have gone through a lot and they are struggling and they just want to find the best way for them to manage their gut, right? So those are the ones who are really going to comply. But those who are just, okay, this is my first time doing this, so I'm going to give this a try. So patients who usually say that I'll give this a try, they'll try, but then they usually go off the bandwagon and then they will rebound to their old diet. So There are some of those patients.
Got it. Now, we've spoken with Dr. Iman Thalia earlier on a little bit about supplementation, probiotics, prebiotics as well. But of course, we all know you can get that from food.
Yep.
And that should be the primary source from what Dr. Iman and the team have told me as well. Where can we get that from? What types of foods? Because you hear about kimchi, but what's in it? I mean, what makes this so special?
Okay, so first let's talk about probiotics, right? So probiotics, usually the food that I would recommend to any patient are yogurts, because yogurts contain high-level strains of the bacteria that is good for your health, that's good for your gut. When it comes to kimchi, or those that are naturally fermented and they have this bacteria growth in them, but not all of those strains are the ones that are good for your stomach, for example, like for lactobacillus. So you've heard of lactobacillus, and those are the most important strains that are good for your gut. And those are the ones that are being used in yogurts, or even yogurt drinks, or even some other products. Nowadays, I see like kefir water, so they put lactobacillus in there as well. So it's the strain. So it doesn't necessarily mean, for example, here in Malaysia, we have tapai. So it's fermented pulut, sticky rice. So some of my patients, well, not some, but I had patients who actually asked me if tapai is good for the gut, because it's similarly the same thing, right? It's like kimchi, but it's not cabbage, and they essentially can eat rice. Malaysians love rice, so they asked me if tapai is okay for them. I mean, it is fermented. It can provide some of the beneficial traits that you're looking for from fermented food. But because tapai is so sweet, it's so sweet, it's actually a dessert. So when they kind of like just scarf them down, and it kind of actually raises their blood glucose. So I'm like,
I got you.
So it's like there's a lot of sugar in there as well, right?
Yes.
But I mean, like talking about that kind of like fermentation, right? I know that like resistant starch, like overnight rice, for example, like cold cooked rice, or you cook it and then you put it in the fridge, and then you eat it the next day. I know that also causes this kind of like fermentation process. Reduces the glycemic index as well.
It does.
So that's another good one to do, I guess.
So for those, that's true. Instead of tapai. Like usually, like for those fermented foods, they are really good for those who have IBS, or those who have some irritable syndromes in their gut. So I usually would ask them or recommend them those fermented food, because it has been partially broken down, so it won't hurt the stomach as much.
Got it.
But what about patients who have lactose intolerant? Because a lot of our patients that we see, so then how do we recommend? I mean, because for us, we just put them on certain types of probiotics. Then yogurt would be hard for those patients. Right. So then would you eliminate that if they are not able to?
I mean, if they can't take lactose, then I wouldn't recommend them yogurts or even kefir. But the kefir kind of comes from cow, from milk. But there are kefir water, like they're actually clear. I'm not really sure if it's largely available here in Malaysia. I've seen it maybe in Village Grocer.
We like to go to Dusun, which is our favorite kind of organic grocer.
I love Dusun.
I know, in TTDI, right? So they have kefir, which is made from cashew nut and also almond milk. And, she just told me, the owner, Shan, she told me that, they had sent it to the lab, and they found that they yield more, lactobacillus than a normal yogurt would. And I found that really interesting. Right? So they, that was great. I thought
that is interesting.
Like they use plant-based milk for patients who are lactose intolerant, and then they, ferment it. And it's amazing how they found out that it's actually more than a normal yogurt kind of.
It could be because of the fiber, the way that lactobacillus are eating the fiber.
And fiber is very important as well, right?
Prebiotics.
That's a good segue into the fiber topic.
Yes.
So why is fiber so crucial? Because when I think fiber, I think, okay, it's going to make sure that I am solid, if you know what I mean. That my stool will be, you know what I mean? Is that, or does it do more than that?
They are a source of prebiotics. Right. So even if you take a lot of probiotic, even if you get supplements from pharmacies or from Rosewood Clinic, but you don't take prebiotics, then it doesn't make any sense as well, because you need to feed the bacteria. So prebiotics are a source of food for this bacteria. So I had patients who actually down yogurts every day in the morning, but they don't actually eat a lot of prebiotic sources. So that patient basically doesn't see a lot of changes. So when I ask that patient to include a little bit more of prebiotic sources, for example, especially cruciferous vegetables, they contain high levels of prebiotics. I think the highest would be artichokes. And leek, correct.
Things that we don't really eat here, right?
Exactly. But then like the stems of the vegetables can also be a good source of prebiotics. But those are the part of the vegetables that a lot of people hate because it's very bitter.
Yes. Yeah, but I mean, I find it interesting because, like, you know, fiber, right? You're adding fiber to diet, right? I always get my patients to kind of like incorporate more fiber in the diet, right? Yeah, because, you know, you mentioned like the variety, right? It's not just eating yogurt because you're just kind of like feeding more of like lactobacillus, but then you kind of want a lot of the other strains as well, right? Yeah, so I think that's why it's important to kind of like add variety to your diet.
Well, that's important. Can I tell a story?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to tell a little personal story.
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually told this to a patient on Saturday. He came in, he was quite young with his mum and dad, and he's got definitely long-term skin-related issues. And we were having a chit-chat. Now, I remember when I was 8 years old, maybe 9, I was very small. I used to self-harm myself and like put my nails into my face and leave some pretty bad marks. And my mum took me to a doctor, and I was what we found out that I was allergic to additives and preservatives and cow's milk and a whole litany of different things, and it was giving me terrible reactions. And I remember I grew up after that. I grew up on goat's milk. From the ages of 8 till about 16, all I drank was goat's milk. The only chocolate I had was dark chocolate. I hated, by the way, because when you're small, you want to eat chocolates and sweets and gummies and all those things which are bad for you, right? But so much sugar and additives and preservatives and numbers. But I know it's hard to make changes, to be compliant, especially when you're small and you're young, right? It's very hard indeed. But today, and even then, and like now as well, I have to obviously look after myself. And as you know, I often slip off the bandwagon of eating
multiple times,
of eating clean. But we then move into like diets, and I know maybe it's got a bad connotation, the word diet. But what I sometimes find is an intermittent fasting, or things FODMAP, or, you know, low calorie. I mean, which ones are particularly good for gut health? Are there, because you hear anti-inflammatory diets, you hear all these diets, all these buzzwords as well. Which ones would you say work, or that you use more often, maybe than others?
To be honest, most of the time I would advocate on anti-inflammatory and antioxidant diet, because the FODMAP diet, it's very strict, even for people with IBS. If people with a condition can't really comply on FODMAP diets, then can you imagine those who don't really have a condition? Like, they feel like, oh, I don't have anything to hold on at the end of the bargain, then why should I follow a FODMAP diet, which is really strict? So I don't really do FODMAP diets. Even with patients with IBS, they would have done FODMAP diets in the beginning, right? Because that is something that's quite readily available, even on the more national education.
You can Google that, I guess, can't you really?
Google it, But when I work with patients, I try to understand the types of food that they already have identified as trigger foods, and then we'll try to eliminate those and start finding replacements. So it's more of like a flexible FODMAP diet for those who are, say, with IBS or any irritable or inflammatory bowel diseases. But for the general public, usually the anti-inflammatory or antioxidant diets. But you mentioned about intermittent fasting?
Yes, because it's kind of like, it was popular back in the day. To be honest, I still use it, and I think it's good. Because I think we all eat far too much food.
That is true. Intermittent fasting, if you use it correctly, and if you use the window for you to eat properly, then it can work for a lot of people. But a lot of people, they actually abuse IF. For example, they don't eat at all during the day, which is wrong. That is where you need to supply your body with the most energy, and that's when you need to basically supply your body with the right nutrients. And then you start reducing your food intake from evening until night time.
Because I guess, Dr. Iman, that if you don't eat, like Yasmin said there as well, that could give you gastric and more gut issues as well, right?
Yeah.
It could trigger things.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a lot of patients who can't do the intermittent fasting because they have all those IBS symptoms, right? It depends, you know, it needs to be monitored as well, especially when you have a lot of those IBS symptoms. But fasting is great. I always do recommend it. And especially for patients who are not able to comply to a certain diet, I would be like, okay, if you can't get anything healthy during the day at your workplace, why don't you just fast? Just don't have a, breakfast or lunch. Maybe if dinner is something that you can control, go for that. Yeah, just have your dinner, So, but yes, it's also important to get the right nutrients as well, because you don't want to be nutrient deficient as well. That's going to create more problems and issues as well.
Now, I'm not a snacker, really, except for chocolate every now and again, right? But I'm not really much of a snacker. But what I find is, and I think maybe some of our patients can relate to this as well, is that if I'm not going to eat, sometimes I need to have a little something just so I don't ruin it, and then just go out and stuff my face at nighttime and have a big nasi lemak, or what's that place in Tamanturn which does the best nasi lemak in the world? Anyway, it's amazing. You get sotong, and I can get excited. But anyway, with those types of things as well, what are the best snacks to have during the day which work for you?
Okay, wait, sorry, before Yasmin get into that. So what, okay, because he was saying that we've just got a whole lot of variety of food, right, in Malaysia. Is our Malaysian diet a standard American diet? Because this is what I understood, it is actually not a real Malaysian diet.
Standard.
So American diet, yeah.
You mean like modernized?
Yeah.
Do you think that our diet?
Yeah.
I would say, I'm not so sure from when, but this is also what I have read on for my papers and all. Yes, Malaysia is seeing a modernization when it comes to diet. It's shifting more from what we used to eat. So if we look at how our grandmothers or great grandmothers used to eat, they're actually really healthy.
Right?
Really?
Yes. So we are kind of like adopting the American diet, modernizing.
Processed food, ultra processed. Is that what we mean? Is that what you mean?
More gluten.
Yep.
Yeah, burgers, pasta.
Yep.
Things that we never really had in the great grandmother's time, right?
Yeah. Like my grandmother, she's still alive and she doesn't have any. She's not diabetic. She doesn't have any cholesterol. She's just on a wheelchair because of I think it's because of old age, because of the muscle and all. But what I noticed is that she still practices the same diet until today. Like she still eats tapioca, like steamed tapioca sometimes. And she makes her own roti canai, so it's not like filled with ghee or oil. It's like really the old way of making things. So that is something that I noticed, that our true diet is not bad at all. It's just that the Americanization and
I say that as well, because with the nasi lemak, right, you were saying, it's now just taken to another level. Like the old kind of original nasi lemak, it's actually kind of healthy. It's just coconut milk rice with rice and very small portion. You've got eggs, which is a source of iron, and anchovies, high in iron as well.
But they lure us in with that calamari. Remember? So
and the portion.
But the portion is massive.
Yeah.
But the price tag for it is also massive. But I'm a sucker for that one. So snacks. Let's get back to that.
Sorry,
Okay. So when it comes to snacks, usually I would recommend nuts because I think nuts is the easiest, and you can get like the small packs from any grocery store, so you can just stuff it in your bag. Other than that, some granola bars are okay. Those like with natural ingredients, those are also the ones that I would advise my patients. So granola bars, yogurt if they're not lactose intolerant, like the small packs of yogurt, that's fine as well.
Got it.
But I also try my best to Asianize a lot of things because some of them, they're not very familiar with eating yogurt. They're not very familiar with eating nuts. But for example, chickpeas.
Okay.
Chickpeas is quite common to us.
And it's quite filling.
It is.
I find it quite filling.
Chickpeas, yes, because I remember back in those days when I was younger, like they used to have like these vans coming, like their uncles on the motorcycles, they sell these steamed chickpeas. So I would tell them, like, if you're familiar with chickpeas, and you can just eat chickpeas, you can even season them and make them delicious, and you can just have them on the go.
So nuts, I'm a big nut man. I like nuts as well. So nuts, banana?
Yeah, banana's fine. It depends if in terms of your blood glucose though, because some patients who have like really high blood glucose, I wouldn't advise them on banana, but more on high level of citrus fruits, lower glycemic index fruits.
No, I'm going to throw you a curve question here as well. When we talk about gut health as well, we also, I mean, these buzzwords like celiac disease comes up, which I think only 5% of the world are actually have that condition as well. But some people are intolerant to gluten. And of course, that ties back sometimes to some of our gut tests we do at the Rosewood Clinic, right?
Yeah.
How important and how relevant is gluten when it comes to dietary planning?
That's a very tough question.
I know, it's a
That's
tough
a
one.
curveball.
Okay, this is open to both of you as well, because, myself, I don't really cut back on gluten, but I understand there's blue zones all around the world, right? And I remember looking at one particularly in Italy. I mean, they eat a lot of pasta, and pasta obviously has gluten in it as well, but it's handmade. It's handmade pasta the same way they made it 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Not the same way when I buy it in X shop down the road, which is totally manufactured and full of...
Yeah.
So gluten is something serious we have to look at, or when it comes to gut health, or
I mean,
what do you say?
with research, it does show that gluten is very inflammatory, so it does trigger a lot of inflammatory conditions.
Oh, right.
So then, if you have IBS, that's number one to actually exclude or just eliminate right from your diet. It is hard to do for some who like to eat a piece of bread, for example, in the morning. Just that's the easiest thing, right? I feel that's the easiest thing to grab, but also the hardest thing for patients to say no to.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say. I like that. Yeah.
And so that, but I don't know, how do you manage patients who love great wheat pasta, and then how do they eliminate it from the diet? I mean, how do you counsel them?
Okay, the good thing is all the patients that I've met at Rosewood, they are okay. They are the kind of patients like, I'm willing to change the usual tools that I have with, say, baked sweet potato or even rice in the morning, like make it into a porridge and have eggs with them and everything. They say that's fine, they can do it. But I had previous patients who I needed to cut down their gluten intake, mostly because of the inflammation as well as weight loss, basically, because a lot of them I noticed that they are quite sensitive with gluten, so that may cause some fluctuation with their glucose spikes throughout the day. It's a bit difficult working with them, because these are the kind of people who have grown up with bread, and they, I would say, on the lower education side as well as the lower socioeconomic level status of Malaysia. So usually those kind of people, in the whole family, it's not very supportive. So you don't really have a strong support system to actually, either go in that journey with you to help you out. So it's difficult. Yeah.
I guess in the old days, we used to Malaysians, I'm not Malaysian, but I feel like I've been here forever. Yeah. But Malaysians used to eat at home. Right? It was home cooked food. Okay. Yes. Okay. We still had NCD related issues, diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. But of course, that's grown over time. We're eating out more now than ever before as well. We don't know what we're eating. You know what I mean? I mean, like now, if I wanted to go out and get, let's just say something healthy, like some vegetables, because I'm a pescatarian, right? So some vegetables and maybe some fish and maybe and some rice with that as well. Where am I going to go and get that? That's not going to cost me 45 ringgit.
Yeah.
Where? Nowhere. There's a place in Tamatun called Homs. Homs, what do you call it?
Oh, yeah.
I like it there because it's really busy. It's like a Chinese Muslim restaurant. But I like it because they just give me fish and rice. That's just what I need. And it helps me lose weight, right? I'm a work in progress, obviously. But I mean, that's what we need more of, like home-cooked food. But it's not easy, is it?
It's not. It's not. My husband's mom, she cooks a lot, and she cooks everything from scratch. Like her nasi lemak is like the nasi lemak that
the real one with the pandan leaves.
Yes, and it takes a long time. It takes a long time. So a lot of people are actually cutting back on the processes because they want to make their effort worth it when they are selling it out to the people. And because if we try to put in all of our time and effort into making that single dish, we may have to sell it at a little bit of expensive price. Yeah, so that's why not a lot of people are actually doing it the OG way.
Okay, Dr. Man, any more thoughts on our topic of eating for a healthy gut?
I mean, I love this topic, and it's something that I think, as nutritionists working with functional medicine doctors, it's something that we just kind of like have to come together and just find a way or a balance on how to better manage our patients, right?
Yep.
Because it's probably the hardest thing for a patient to do, for a person to do, to change their diet. Yeah.
Oh, it's a huge thing. I think what we find in the clinic is, yes, you can take X therapies with us as well. But at the end of the day, if we're asking you to change your diet, that's a big step.
It is.
It's a big change as well. So I can imagine, compliance is sometimes hard as well.
It is. It's scary to some patients when they understand or they found out that they have to change their diet. It's something that's actually really scary for them. So for healthcare professionals, one thing that I feel that needs to be educated, like in our school, like during universities, when we're doing our training as a doctor or nutritionist, is how we actually communicate with people, with patients, when we try to introduce them with this new dietary plan and advices, so that they understand it's not just for them, but it's also for their future, basically.
Okay. And I love that you said that, because you do have that training about nutrition, but then you're lacking the part of how do we convey that to our patients, right? For us as doctors, we don't even get any training on nutrition. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So that's why we don't even talk about it.
Okay, as a doctor, have you ever learned anything about the gut microbiota?
Well, very little. We did learn about the gut-brain axis. I remember in medical school, it was all there. It was just that it was never emphasized.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, last question for both of you to answer. Where are we going? What's the future hold for eating for a healthy gut? What do you hope the direction in which we go in? Patients out there as well. Where are we going? What are we going to do? NCDs are rising still. We've been talking about this for 10 years. It's still getting worse. We're not beating that curve. Malaysia's I think top 3 in the Asia Pacific or something crazy like that. So what can we hope for?
Oh dear. That's another difficult question, Greg.
I only ask the hard ones.
Well, I think as a nutritionist, and right now because I'm looking at food policy and food environment, so I feel like the food policy and food environment here in Malaysia as well as Southeast Asia is something that needs to be looked at a little bit further. And it's not just on the nutrition part, but of course it's a transdisciplinary thing. So doctors need to come in, and then we also want policy people to also come in and have a look and understand that it's not just about, we can do just as much telling people that these are good for you, these are bad for you. But if it's very accessible for them to get all of this other food that is less healthier, then it's not doing our work any justice. So I feel like that is where the future should be headed. If not, then it's just a waste of a nutritionist energy to just speak to the patient, but it's not doing any good.
Policy change.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The policy needs to be changed. It needs to be re-looked at. We need to have more conversations on this, more awareness. That's why we create all these kind of shows and talks and workshops, right? To create more awareness as well, right? And I feel it's more important to also have more healthier kind of eating places, instead of having a whole Starbucks chain or McDonald's. Why don't we approve more of a Dusun kind of chain,
Or I like it, to be honest. I like a BMS Organics. That's not a plug for them, but I do like the food there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not 100% sure whether it's fully organic, but it's tasty.
It is.
Feels clean.
Have those type of places more than the unhealthy ones, right?
But then, of course, then it's chicken and egg situation where, for example, you have all these nice places. Can we get the price point right for 90% of the population here?
Yeah,
Secondly is, not only price point is there a desire for that number? I'd say in the last 10 years, we've seen a lot more significant change in the way that the F&B industry in Malaysia has shifted. Certainly more. A lot more of these types of shops has opened up. So, I mean, I see good things for the gut in the future, but policy needs to support that, doesn't it?
Yeah. If I may add, the one thing that I also wish in the future is that, for example, our KKM, our health ministry, I've seen a lot of pictures, nutritionists working inside the ministry actually posted the types of food that are being served to them during meetings and all. It doesn't really represent.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't represent.
Is it kueh?
Oh,
is it curry puffs?
I have been there many times.
Right?
Yeah, and I remember not eating them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we don't take it, we feel
Offended?
bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, it's a social and cultural thing about
Yes.
food as well. When we people serve all of this food that we are trying to avoid, but we take them because we only feel bad. And if we don't eat them, we feel bad because we are wasting food. So
and I remember every time I would say no to those kind of food, or I just didn't take it, they're like, oh, are you on a diet? Are you on a diet?
Yeah.
Yes, I am on a diet. I'm constantly on a healthy, conscious diet or healthy.
Anyway, thank you so much indeed. Yasmin, it's been an absolute pleasure having
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Iman Thalia, it's been a pleasure as well. Today we've been talking about eating for a healthy gut. My name's Gregg Parker, and this is I'm Not a Doctor, but My Wife Is. Thank you.